Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, Frank.
Morning.
Good morning, or good evening, or whatever time zone you're in, whatever month or year it is. It doesn't even matter at this point, I don't think. Hello, it's still 2020. So we're going to give everyone a few moments to join in and make sure that they can all see our live event happening. For those of you that are jumping in right now, we are going to be using this tool that you're watching this video in, and the tool is called Just Ask. And I'll start off by saying that this allows you to, in real time, ask questions, being able to either submit your full name or anonymously, but you can ask us questions in regards to what we're talking about or whatever's on your mind. So I want to make sure that we'll have time to answer your questions at the end of this conversation around cloud. And so as a result of that, probably 30 to 45 minutes into our chat, we'll jump over to Just Ask and start hitting some of those questions you're asking. But the first thing I want to do is welcome you to this discussion around cloud. Really, the whole reason why we're talking about this is because it is really time to get serious about migrating your company to the cloud. And we're here today to talk about why it's vital and how you can get started. And so I want you just to consider for a moment the potential impacts on your business when the next calamity or natural disaster or pandemic hits. Is your technology at the mercy of the power staying on at your office? And another way of saying that is your technology localized in a specific area, what we call on-premises? What happens when you're seriously strapped for cash and have no choice but to maintain aging or end-of-life technology? Or think about the long-term impacts of your virtual workforce and their particular technology needs. So today we're going to be covering lots of different topics around what it means to step into the cloud and what are some of those potential misconceptions, those issues, and those opportunities that cloud can provide. So I want to welcome first Softways VP of Technology, Saif. Thank you for joining us, as well as our Account Services Director, Greg. And today we're going to talk about why cloud is and can be a competitive advantage for you and your workforce. So welcome, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today during this webinar.
Thanks, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Here.
Excellent. You almost echoed/mirrored yourselves, and that was really weird.
Yeah.
I loved it so much. So I want to start off by talking about, and I brought this up just briefly just a moment ago, but I want to talk about what challenges virtual workforces and businesses that have been forced to go virtual or mostly virtual as a result of this pandemic. What are they faced with right now? What are some of the issues that are plaguing virtual workforces and businesses?
Cool. So I think one of the biggest thing that I would start off with is productivity, right?
Okay.
So when it comes down to how applications are created for business use cases, like technology drives majority of businesses today. So when applications are created, they're created for people to be within the office, whether that is data protection, security, and all of those things. And now everybody's outside of the office and the applications are inside the office, right? So that creates a different dynamic that is needed to actually be productive, be able to use the services and to be able to offer the value to the business as well from an employee standpoint. So today, and there are a lot of organizations that still run desktop applications that run within the network and not necessarily that can be accessed remotely. And if you want to access them remotely, you have to use other softwares that enable that. And that it alone causes a huge impact around productivity to be able to get the job done in fast, easy manner, versus now the user experience is reduced and it adds to frustrations from an employee standpoint, and that triggers more business problems than it should. So that is one of the biggest challenges that I've been noticing and hearing and seeing around virtual workforces today. Greg, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would totally echo that statement. I think at the moment, and talk to a lot of different clients across the board here locally in Texas and nationally within the US, there's a real need to move outside of those walls you talked about. And a lot of organizations are looking to react pretty quickly with what's going on with COVID-19 in the last 12 weeks. And so I think there's a number of challenges, right? One, there's a lot of new technology that is being implemented. People are embracing cloud technologies a lot more, infrastructure as a service, software as a service. So everyone is being inundated with technology and a lot of cloud-based technology. That creates a number of flow-on effects for IT leaders or leaders in any business. Training, morale, managing change. It is it's a difficult situation to be in right now as it is, but then to throw those things on top of things, it is creating some challenges for organizations, and they're having to come up with strategies to combat them.
Wow. So we're talking about the ability to do things quickly, the ability to adapt quickly to changing landscapes, all of these types of things that are happening right now with virtual workforces and businesses. And I think you were talking earlier, Saif, about, I guess what we're talking about is VPNs, right? Like having to join onto a local network inside of your office in order to use the technology, which immediately slows you down and reduces the productivity and creates this aggravation as well, right? And so that's really one of the main issues that I know a lot of people are having, because they're being forced into using something that is in their particular office space.
Yeah, and then outside of that, on top of the VPN, sometimes you even have to use a remote desktop to connect to the desktop application. Right? So that's another layer of aging technology that's getting in the way, right?
Yeah. To add to that, Frank, I think when you look at business productivity at the moment, there's a real need to make swift change, right, and to move in an agile way, look after your employees, and it's creating a number of challenges, whether it be cost constraints, just training, compliance, people at home using their own hardware now, security concerns. It's creating a lot of problems, and it's keeping a lot of IT and leaders on their toes, that's for sure.
So that actually brings me to my next question to both of you, and that's really the impact of not having applications yet on the cloud. And we've talked about a few of those impacts, but I want to talk more specifically about something like a business vulnerability, or maybe the speed in which businesses need to react. What are some of those impacts of not having yet migrated applications onto the cloud?
So one thing that businesses need today more than ever is agility, right? The ability to pivot, shift, depending on what the situation is around the pandemic or the economy and things like that. So what they are planning for today could change in 2 days, right? So the agility that they need to be able to shift their technology to make things happen for their business is, I think, going to be taken away if you don't actually embrace the cloud. And that is one of the biggest pillars of why cloud was even created, is to give you that flexibility, right? To be able to quickly pivot. The mentality behind cloud is, if you don't need something, you drop it, you move on to something else. Just because you have made an investment doesn't mean that you need to carry that forward and try to get value out of it. And especially with the expenses related to cloud, it's pay as you go, and you only pay for what you use and things like that. So it allows you to quickly pivot and keep your costs down, and not have wasted resources and wasted your dollars, where they could be better utilized for what business value you need tomorrow. So considering that, I would say that not having your applications in the cloud from an impact standpoint is that you pivoting quickly and giving your teams flexibility and allowing them to quickly build something out. All of those are things that would be hindered or get in the way.
Yeah, I think from a pure business perspective, Frank, leaders are focused on de-risking the business, right? Risk generally creates cost impacts or revenue impacts. And to touch on Saif's point a little bit more, an on-demand cloud system gives you powerful tools. It does things in a more automated way these days than you had to previously rely on a lot of manual labor. And it has a cost advantage. So not embracing those things, and when you think about competitive advantage, you're putting your business at risk, but you're also putting your business back a step, right? If you can't be agile and be fast, if you can't be better, or you can't do things quicker or improve your products, you're really, hitting the trifecta in terms of being a step back against maybe some of your other competition that have already made those jumps. Now, that's not to say that cloud is the only solution, right? And you have to put everything to the cloud. I think it's important to talk about.
Right.
There are hybrid approaches and strategies businesses take, and there's some validity to that. But there's a lot of opportunity for businesses to look at. I would say low risk. They don't have to move their whole business to the cloud. Components where they can start to make gains or start to take action around that to de-risk their business. If you think about different types of businesses right now, cost pressure is at an all-time high, right? If revenues are being, whether it's hospitality, whether it's transport, it's retail, everyone is not generating revenue or profits to anywhere near the expected. So cost is a big thing. And touching on the pay-as-you-go and demand component, cloud allows you to leverage big boy tools at an affordable cost and grow as you need to, right? So gives you a lot of cost advantages that if you're still stuck in a non-cloud strategy or maybe not embracing it totally, it is going to have an impact on the bottom line for a business.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I think there's what we've been talking about up to this point is kind of that FOMO, the fear of missing out, right? And so it's like, okay, I've personally felt as a business owner the impact of not having applications on the cloud, kind of using legacy apps. Our teams have felt it. Now we're recognizing that we're actually behind. What I want to do now is kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about bringing up a good point that Greg, you mentioned around not having to start with migrating everything, right? Because I think that's the biggest misnomer in this space when people are hearing all of the stuff we've been talking about and going, oh my gosh, I'm outdated, I'm behind. I must do a massive, complete lift and shift overhaul, change everything immediately in order to get stuff done. But a lot of times that's just not possible. And it's not something that should be done like immediately without stepping into it and kind of experiencing it in more of a step-by-step approach. So when we talk about migrating your apps to the cloud, I want to ask both of you, I want to start with Saif, but I want to ask both of you, what are some things that we should do? What are some things that we should do and what are some things that we should not do in regards to like the mindset around migrating your apps and the steps that you should be taking to migrating your apps to the cloud?
Sure. So when it comes to the first step is plan, I would say, but doesn't mean that you spend 3 months planning, right? Get an idea of where are your challenges today, what applications are being used, and why do you use those applications?
Right.
What would be the benefit of this being in the cloud? Do some analysis so that way you're prioritizing which ones really need to move to the cloud first, which ones can go second, third, and things like that. So you're creating a plan over there. And after that, move fast, right? That is something that I think when it comes to a shift like this, there's a lot of fear. What if you do the wrong thing? What if this is not accepted? What if it doesn't work? What if we don't have the skill to do this? What if we get hacked? There's going to be a lot of fear associated with it, no doubt. But I think if you plan well and if you have the skill set, you're able to lean on partners, you're able to lean on support and things like that to actually make it happen, it will work out, right? It's not that you want to have challenges. It's not that you want to have issues. You will, but when you keep moving, you're going to find a way to overcome those. But if you're going to overthink and try to solve all of these problems at this, even before you get started, it's going to be almost impossible for you to actually make this transition without losing all the opportunity for you and the valuable time that goes with it, right? Yeah. So I would say that's the 2 steps to do that. And after that, the third one I would say is going to be around. Once you have done once you have started this migration and started working on this plan, I would say start looking at quick wins, right? You don't have to, again, move the entire application. What can you do to maybe just move the notification system, the ability to send emails out, or ability to, move the authentication to the cloud, or ability to store large amounts of data to the cloud, right? So think of it in that fashion. So that way you're doing smaller chunks and integrating, and over a period of time, you're migrating your application, not trying to do everything at once. This way, your end users are getting the business value and starting to see something new is coming, something better is coming, and they're more inclined to accept it. At the same time, the business is starting to get the value from every release that you're going to do and every shift that you're going to make, right? So that way, it's not one big bag launch that again now has to go with a lot of training, a lot of education.
Right.
I think we'll be able to reduce all of those costs and all of those expenses and save a lot of time in the long run. So I would say that's going to be the approach that we'd recommend. Now, obviously, this depend case by case what it can be and should be.
Right. So that's definitely some of those things to keep in mind when you are going to begin migrating your apps to the cloud. Planning, moving fast, but not moving recklessly, and then getting those small wins that can sort of move things forward instead of having to roll out a massive change management plan for the entire thing, kind of upending everything. What about some things that we should not be doing? What are some don't do's, things that we've learned from our own experience that would save you time, save you money, and save you headaches?
Yeah, so I think one of the things is people confuse moving fast to just doing whatever, right?
Sure,
so
I do.
You're reckless. Make sure you're planning and whatever step you're taking is going to help and do that. And also don't get stuck in trying to plan too much. Don't get too involved in everything that needs to get done. I know you may have a lot of applications, a lot of departments that need to have this discussion, that you need to have discussions with. Maybe start small, maybe start in a smaller group, because we've also seen that the more people that are involved, and more departments that are, or more voices that are there, the harder your decisions get to as to what your next step needs to be as well, right? So maybe again, narrow it down to what is the most important thing from a business standpoint, prioritize that way, and keep moving forward.
Right.
Yeah, to add to that, Frank, I think, from our experiences over a number of years now, we've seen a lot of clients try and make this shift themselves. And obviously, that's a prerogative of any business, is to have control around that. But I think you have to do a good gut check of your internal team's capabilities. And if you're not completely comfortable in everyone on the team that can write it through themselves, look for outside help. We've been brought into a few different client engagements where teams have known they need to do this to remain competitive and position the business to be successful, but they've probably had no plan and probably not had enough foundational knowledge. The beautiful thing, but the scary thing about cloud is you can do a lot of that yourself, right? You can empower your own teams, you can train people, you can pick it up. They do a really good cloud, the big cloud providers, and IBM, AWS, Google, Microsoft, they all provide a lot of training. But we've seen a lot of clients jump to Saif's point, probably not with the best plan or even a plan. And I think it's really important with what Saif mentioned. You do have to have a vision or a plan. Don't get stuck in the planning. Have a strategy of how you're going to get through it. Think through it logically, smartly. Consider the business environment, all of those things, and then break it down. The big bang approach never works. But to my point before, don't be afraid to bring people in that specialize in this, even if it is for a startup engagement, right? Or it's to help your team build capability around it. We've seen many examples where clients take it out on their own. Their team maybe is not quite yet ready to really own and drive the strategy or the initial foundational work that happens. And what that usually leads to is a lack of realization around maybe the value that they expected to get, whether that's, I've made some, less than best practices decisions that are now going to bite us down in the long run. Yep. Whether that's I really was focused about saving costs, but the way we've set it up, or the fact we don't have fundamental knowledge of it, means we've set up services in a different way that's actually costing us money, or maybe not letting us realize as much as maybe the ROI that we expected. So it's important to have a look within and make sure you've got the right skill sets there, or you leverage partners that can elevate what you do. So
you brought up something about money. There is cost saving associated with the cloud, right? I mean, in terms of owning physical hardware, and the aging or end of life of technology, having to upgrade. I mean, that factors in obviously to your bottom line. So there is cost saving, but there's a lot more value that comes out of the cloud than just cost savings, right?
100%. I think that if we were talking to clients, and obviously we've got some people on the screen share today, cost should be a component of a consideration in an initiative like cloud.
Right.
It shouldn't be the main driver of why you're doing it. Yes, there's a byproduct of being able to build your business, build the foundations, pay on demand for services as you need them, or when demand comes in for whether it be a mobile app or a website or your reporting, whatever it may be, whatever function that your applications are performing. And I think I've seen a few different businesses over the time really focus on the cost saving. The reality is even if it was on par with old technology or on-premise technology, the value it brings is far outweighed by a bunch of different factors. A couple of them, straight off the bat, is, I talked a little bit about it before, automated tools and processes provided by some of the bigger cloud providers essentially take away a lot of mundane tasks that maybe your team had to fulfill previously. So the intangible benefit there with your teams is you're now starting to enable your teams to spend more time or even reinvest some budget savings into other initiatives.
Okay.
We can get people away from working on things that systems can take care of themselves, and we can put their minds into more strategic things of building out capability for the business with technology at the core, then you're going to be far better off. So to your point, there is a cost saving. There are ways to make sure you maximize the ROI, at least from a financial perspective, on your pure hardware and technology cost.
Right.
But operationally, and the capabilities it creates for an organization far outweigh those costs. And I mean, you can do those feasibility studies to analyze the financial impact of when you empower people to be more strategic and deliver strategic outcomes and what it does for maybe a new business line or a new product, or how you improve customer experience through an application. But you should, when you're assessing this type of strategy, you should look at all of those variables. There's a number of tangible and intangible benefits, not just cost.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. One thing to add on top of that as well would be is there's one thing. Well, the thing that a lot of businesses miss out even in cost saving is that this is also a great opportunity for consolidation of roles as well, which means it's not necessarily around just being able to eliminate roles, but it's also about growing the roles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this could be a good way for organizations to actually accelerate their agile transformation as well, right? Which means moving into DevOps, where a smaller dev team or the IT team can start doing more to take on the application, and there is less churn around trying to hand off things between teams and between individuals and roles. Rather, the team is owning the entire suite of features and applications that are needed to actually bring business value. So that way, that also reduces the time taken for handoff, understanding, misunderstanding, confusions, and all that stuff. And this whole team can holistically own it. So there is a lot of hidden benefits from a team standpoint as well, from productivity overall, to be able to deliver on these services.
It's amazing. So I do want to let everyone know, everyone who's watching now, that you can start to submit questions. If you have any questions for us around cloud, migrating to the cloud, any additional things you want to ask us, you can ask directly in the Just Ask tool. So next to the video that's playing or underneath the video that's playing, depending on your browser, you can immediately ask questions, and we'll begin to answer those questions soon. So I'm going to switch the viewing here. It's a little bit different now, just to play around. And I wanted to ask both of you to talk about, we've hit on some of these points over the past 20 or so minutes, but I want to kind of build it out. Why would you want applications in the cloud? What really we've kind of talked about a lot of different things, but if we're bringing it all together, why would you want applications to be in the cloud versus in an on-prem environment?
Greg, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, sure. There's a bunch of reasons. I think in the current state that we're in with COVID-19, business continuity planning, or BCP, and redundancy measures is key, right? There's so many businesses that have kind of hybrid approach or some systems on premise at the moment that have pretty much been made redundant in terms of being able to operate their business. If you think about it, if we're struggling in, creating the same revenue we did previously, we're not able to build customers, we're not able to use particular applications that help us interact with clients or suppliers or third parties, your business is essentially, capped, right? You're not able to function or operate the business in any which way that you previously did. So I think naturally, and obviously being local here in Texas, redundancy and planning for disaster recovery and BCP is a real big one. And obviously with everything going on, it's a top of organizations' mind. And there's always things you can do better to improve your continuity planning. But cloud gives you a clear leg up in that regard.
Anything to add?
So I think one aspect that I think heavily is considering how looking at the pandemic itself right now is like how crazy it is getting. There is potential of your workforce who's managing this to not be able to work because of health conditions or whatever that is, right? So not being in the cloud takes away the capability of running your applications automatically, right? That is one thing that the cloud enables, is that once you set it up, there's a lot of measures in place and tools in place to keep things going, even if it's not supported or maintained on a daily basis, right? If there are failures, it can recover from it and things like that. So I think adapting to that and implementing things like that, for some reason, if your employees were unable to maintain it or manage it for the rest of your workforce to be able to use some of those applications, it will still continue to work because of the measures that you have put in place through cloud technologies, right? So I think that's going to be a huge benefit, considering the uncertainty that is going on with everything related to the pandemic right now, and everything that Greg mentioned around earlier around the being able to save money and being able to bring value to the business. I think that's a big part of it. But truly, the agility is why you would want to have your application in the cloud, right? If you have started with something today and your business shifts and you need to, or there is new regulations that your business needs to adhere to now, cloud will enable you to get there faster compared to your competitors, right? So it gives you a competitive advantage over there. And that is something that is very, very important and very valuable to businesses today, because it is a race against time. And you want to make sure that you succeed.
Definitely.
Excellent. So we talked about a lot of different topics here around why it's important and what it can do, from de-risking your business to cost reductions to scaling the org, focusing a team on a particular common problem, flexibility, collaboration, access to world-class technologies. I think, Greg, you mentioned big boy tools, which is kind of a fun way of describing the access that you have. And so all of those things are really a driving motivator to start to seriously consider moving applications to the cloud. So
100% agree.
Yeah, so let's actually jump in to, we've got some questions here. And what the first question I wanted to ask is, what expectations should clients have of a cloud technology partner? So if a potential client is looking at any technology partner, Softway as an example, what expectations should they have in regards to working with a particular technology partner that could help them with the ability to leverage the cloud?
You want me to jump in here, Saif?
Sure, yeah.
So there's I look at it in two pieces, right? There's the fundamentals. Do you understand and are you experienced and are you skilled at cloud and cloud-related technology? That's a no-brainer. Do you have the appropriate experience, right? So not just trained and certified and those kinds of things, but can you apply it, right? Can you really do it? Do you have that cross experience? And yeah, obviously, the right talent on board, right? It really comes down to the right type of people in a partner. They're the fundamentals. You've got to have those. But I think the critical things you've got to look at is, as Saif mentioned before, right? One of the biggest benefits around cloud is it allows you to be agile.
Okay.
To be agile, you kind of need to understand the industry. You need to know that the landscape is changing, and then you have to have people that really understand your business. So I'd be looking for a potential partner to really either bring expertise and show that they've either worked in the space, or if they haven't, that they've worked in cloud and they can apply that to your business. As Saif mentioned before, right, it gives you flexibility. It allows you to operate fast. It allows you to scale. It allows you to be agile. And in a pandemic, or even just as we forge forward into 2020, agile is going to help you win or sink if you can't be agile. So you need, in a nutshell, you have to identify a partner that understands your business, understands the industry, can work well with you, can collaborate, can help build your team up as you're working through an initiative like this too. Something we pride ourselves on at Softway is we leave our clients better than when we started, right? There is a fundamental, I would say, a collaborative training guidance type role we play. And then, we either stick around in future engagements or they end up taking it back once they're ready. If you don't understand a client's business, you will not set them up for success.
Yeah.
If you don't know their environment, certain things they need to be ready for and think like them, and you miss those, and then you architect or you set clouds up or you run it in a way that is not conducive to them running their business well, then you will not realize the full benefits or ROI of an initiative like this.
Saif, do you have anything to add in terms of
Sure.
what expectations should clients have of a cloud technology partner?
Yeah, and I think looking at the times today, I think what you want to emphasize in the word is the partner, right? Which means that you are not spending, as a business, you're not spending all of your valuable time that you already need to work on pivoting your business or shifting business priorities to now educate and inform your cloud partner. What you want is your cloud partner to learn about your business proactively, yes, right, and through whatever means possible. You don't want them to be the one only on the receiving end, and you as a business is feeding them everything. And I think that's a big and very important aspect of the partnership. where both of you are coming to the table and figuring out what the solutions could look like, and you're having meaningful discussions around it, rather than just giving information out that somebody's going to go work on, implement, and bring back, which may be applicable or not applicable to your business at the end of it, right? So bringing that partnership aspect, I would say, is very, very critical.
Yeah. It's a really important point I think you make, Saif, and we've had that experience ourselves working with different partners as well. Gone are the days where you outsource work to an IT vendor and you say, here's the requirements, I'm sending them off to you, come back with a result. This type of initiative, when you're looking to explore cloud or building cloud native applications or a hybrid approach and things like that, you need to be in there and collaborate. Obviously, it's going to be a two-way street, right? The partner's going to bring value to you, but you should be wanting, as a client or as a business, you should be wanting to work closely with them, because technology and cloud is at the foundation or fundamental part of your business moving forward. Whether you like it or not, technology is driving business, right? So investing time with your partners on the flip side is going to help you probably scale, perform better, and increase that ROI short, medium, and long term.
That's interesting. And I want to talk about the role that a partner should play when challenging and pushing back on maybe preconceived notions from clients as well. Let's talk a bit about what a technology partner should be doing in that space. I would expect a technology partner to be bringing new ideas to me and not taking someone's concept of an idea and saying, yes, if that's what you want, we'll do that, right? There needs to be that expertise layered in with saying, hey, are you sure? Let's try this. Let's do that. Can we talk a little bit about the way that kind of back and forth needs to be? Because some of the issues, like you mentioned, Saif, if someone isn't willing to partner and fully understand the needs of a particular business, then they're going to walk in with blinders on and only provide something that either the company directly asks for, which is strange, right? To say that if a company has a very specific ask, the technology partner should come back and challenge that ask, but there's more to it than that. Can we unpack that a little bit?
Sure, yeah. So a lot of the times, I would say organizations, when they come and ask something out of a cloud partner, they're coming with a preconceived notion based on their history, their experience, and their exposure to their environment and their experiences around that, right? So I would say that's good, because that's what they're limited to. Yeah, they know, right, at that point. But somebody like Softway as a cloud partner, I would say, is that we have worked with a lot of industries, a lot of clients. We've seen a lot of challenges, a lot of problems, and we have overcome those, right? So in that space, we are able to look at the client's business very differently and the solution that they're trying to solve very differently than what the client itself has been able to do, right? So with that, we're able to recommend things that we have seen in the past that could be done differently or better from that experience standpoint, from that exposure standpoint. Now, majority of the time, that might be applicable, and that dialogue, that discussion leads to something productive that will help the business that we're going to be working with. Sometimes we learn about the business itself and like, here's the reason why we can't do that. This is the restriction, this is the limitation, or this is the reason we have a regulation, right? So understanding that a little bit more will lead to still a better solution, right? So that dialogue is important instead of just accepting what is coming, because then we are missing an opportunity in innovation. We're missing the opportunity of moving to the next level. So that's what I would say over here.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely a lot of fears, right, within a cloud type initiative and moving more in that space. There's always concerns, there's fears, there's preconceived notions of what to do, what not to do.
Yep.
A lot of people have had good, bad, indifferent experiences if they worked at other organizations and now their current organization is embarking on something. So I think it's really just being about being an advisor, and I touched on that before, but you've got to understand their business and their situation. Yes, I've mentioned a lot of the times there's similar challenges and similar problems and similar solutions, but they're also nuanced depending on the environment, the industry, what's going on, their team, their internal skill sets, right?
Yep.
When we're working and trying to be a partner to clients, being an advisor is really important. Giving them options, putting it out, sharing your experiences, right? If you can help a client not make a mistake that someone else did, or we even made, many years ago, or another organization that you know a story about, sharing experience is key, and even connecting different clients and creating opportunities for them to actually speak to some of our clients, right, and learn from other people and things like that. So it's important that you advise them and give them options.
Yeah, that's good. And I think that's something that, for those that are watching this, thinking about, bringing on a cloud technology partner, considering that they shouldn't be yes man. They should be giving you advice. They should be sharing what's worked in the past, but also bringing what they know to your particular situation and creating a solution that is very unique to you, that hits on the things you're trying to get, that isn't an out of the box, or that isn't a off the shelf solution, right? And that's really the approach that I think both of you have been speaking to. So we've got another question on Just Ask. What are typical client issues we're seeing as Softway? And on the flip side, for those doing well, what benefits or advantages exist?
Where to start, Saif? Where to start?
I think you're closer to this problem, Greg. So you should.
Thank you.
Greg, take it away.
Yeah, take it away. So I think we've kind of worked around a few of these already, but I think,
we definitely have.
Let me take a pause and think about some of the bigger ones right now.
Sure. Yeah.
Issues. Some of the issues that I think people are facing is they're looking, as Saif said before, they're looking at it as a big bang. Oh, digital transformation, I need to be a data-driven organization, I need to go to the cloud. There's a lot of that type of thinking. The reality is it's very much like any big initiative. They have to go back to taking baby steps and getting quick wins, like Saif mentioned. And I think there's a lot of pressure in organizations today to make big gains or react very quickly to a situation like we're in at the moment. And it creates a lot of pressure. So I think being able to communicate and show people how you can bring value throughout initiatives like this in a piecemeal approach or a stepped approach is really key. I think that's always a challenge to speak to senior leadership. If you're in a mid-level management, you're a director or VP, and your CEO is telling you, get it done quickly. I want everything there. I want to be 100%, protected against the next pandemic or the next hurricane, things like that. I think that's a real challenge for people, is to communicate that, and communicate doing it the right way has a longer-term benefit. I think there's a lot of cost pressure, right? And so, as I touched on this a little bit before, but when it comes to going to the cloud, yes, there is a cost advantage, but if you don't do it properly or you don't know cloud very well, you can actually end up spending more money. And Saif, we've seen this before in some clients that have come to us. So, having the right skill sets, I think a lot of people try to do a lot of things themselves within their internal IT organizations, but maybe that IT organization is not skilled up or completely ready to own it just yet. So that's always a tough one, right? When to go outside, when to empower your internal teams.
Right.
And then on top of that, if you don't think your team is quite ready, then there's the challenges around training and upskilling them. Right now, where potentially, some organizations' revenues have slipped with what's going on, maybe there's not as much of a training budget anymore. So how do we train people to get ready for this newer technology or stuff that is here to stay? So, when it comes down to it, there's the training component, there's the budgetary components, there's the communication management of it. And then as Saif touched on before too, is there's making bad decisions. It can really happen, and you can expose yourself from a security perspective or even just from a business functionality or capability perspective as well.
Yeah.
So that said, I think that on the flip side, into the second part of the question, which I think is a good question, is the people who can overcome those things I just mentioned before are the ones that are taking full advantage of it. Yeah. By all means, there are some organizations that are a lot further ahead than others, right? But it's about making continual progress, thinking through things with a short and long-term view. And I think the organizations that are, as I said earlier, not just looking at it as a pure cost initiative, it's easy to go to that route, right? But if you start to think about going to the cloud creates opportunity for my team and for businesses to do things better, faster, more nimble, and be more strategic, you start to see things like, actually, I've got a lot of talented people that maybe shouldn't be locked down by mundane IT support activities.
Right.
And maybe they can actually help me scale up my business, or maybe they're a part of some initiative that helps me create a new revenue stream or another business model, or helps me deploy the next application that changes the landscape of how our customers work with us. So I think being open to innovate, acknowledging the fear that exists, but willing to be a little bit of a trailblazer and move forward. Being a measured team or leader, the leaders that are putting some of those steps in place that Saif mentioned before, which was don't spend all your time planning, but have a pretty solid plan or have a strategy in mind. Execute small steps, but also put checks and balances in place as well. The managers and leaders that are doing those kinds of things are seeing a lot more success, and I think they're able to move forward more quickly. And like anything in business, when you're able to show people value, whether it's something that takes a couple of weeks or it's a certain thing that shows you all the data you now have access to, that you can start analyzing your business performance, or another application you've been able to deploy quickly because you've leveraged cloud services, that changes perceptions of cloud and technology, and it helps you build a little bit of your own group's brand, or as a leader, your own brand, to then start to have more impact in a business, which obviously should impact outcomes for the business as well. So I think people that are able to communicate, people that are able to step it forward, businesses that are able to embrace and trial, right? You are doing something that's maybe a little uncomfortable sometimes. So those organizations that have the right culture and the right vision and good leaders in place that are willing to plan those things out are generally seeing a lot more success than others.
Yeah, gotcha. Thank you for answering that question. I want to jump into another question here, and I feel like we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but I want to get as succinct as possible for this answer. It has the most upvotes. So, how could not leveraging cloud impact my ability to compete?
Good question. So I think you've got, if you look at I'm going to jump in here, Saif, and then feel free to add. So I think Saif touched on this before, but being agile and being nimble and being able to affect that type of transformation and growth in a business was important in 29, and it even is more important in 2020. If you can't be agile, if you can't be as fast or faster than your competition, if you can't react to customers and customers changing needs and behaviors as quick as others can do, if you can't build and scale technology to support internal business capabilities or external client or partner needs, you're missing things on all areas. And it does come back to one central thing. Cloud enables all of those things. You can either compete or go past your competition. You can be faster. You can be better. You can do things more cheaply. You can have access to more revenue, or at least capital, to reinvest into other things that actually might propel your business further and quicker.
Thank you. Saif, anything to add?
Yeah, so I'll speak to this from an end user perspective.
Okay.
That I've experienced, and something that I value and see is that there are two large retail stores from a hardware standpoint, hardware stores that I regularly visit to buy stuff for myself, right, to do things. Mm-hmm. And as soon as this pandemic hit, one store started shifting completely in their technology and how they want to enable the end user to still shop from them, whether that is curbside pickup, order and pickup, and things like that. And this other store didn't do much they just kept their business going in the same way. And today, they've only been progressing that, where now everything is through a touch of a button saying that, okay, I'm at the store, bring my order out, they bring it to your car, they know which car you're in and everything. So they've made it very seamless and safe. Whereas this other store hasn't done anything even now with all of that. So which store are people more likely to go to? The one that is going to keep them safe, right? The one that invested in the technology, the one that was adapting to the changing environment. And the reason why they were able to adapt to that changing environment was because of their investment in cloud, right? Because they were able to do it, because they had the operational architecture to make those changes. Whereas the other organization may not have that. They might be working on it. It might be 3 months out. But this organization did it in a matter of a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They kept adapting, they kept releasing. They showed their agility in this situation. As in things kept transforming, new regulations came out, they were able to shift quickly. So that itself is a big testament to how cloud can make a huge business impact and give you the competitive edge that you need in order to keep surviving, keep getting your business going, right, from a consumer end standpoint.
Yeah, that's a great story. And I think back to Chipotle. Chipotle has been more or less primed as a restaurant chain for a situation like the pandemic, and technology has played a huge role in it, as well as these random things that happened. Or if you think back to 4 or 5 years ago, with their issues with their lettuce, and they had to add more sanitation protocols, which they leveraged technology for as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then over the past few years, they saw a trend towards mobile ordering and delivery. And so they created second kitchens within Chipotle's actual restaurants, so that you have a segregated kitchen that's separate from the line, that's available to create mobile order food faster. And now a vast majority of the actual usage comes from the mobile app that Chipotle has. And the accuracy is near 100%. And the reviews are in that people love ordering from the app more than ordering in the store. And that's because they considered the impact of technology and the impact of end user experience. And that's become a competitive advantage for them.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
People will make that decision now. It's like convenience is safety is important, right? So they will choose that over somebody else. And technology enables a lot of this. And it doesn't have to be only on the consumer side. This could be a B2B as thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think it's technology, being able to shift in technology and being able to release in shorter periods to get the business value, I think is going to be what gives you that competitive advantage. If you're not set up for that, then we need to start working towards getting set up for that. That is going to be very important.
Yeah, I think, frankly, as we've been chatting, like, again, it comes back to agility, right? I talked a little bit before about changing consumer behaviors or demands, whether that be, B2C or B2B. The story Saif just mentioned, he is a loyal customer to those brands. He's not going away. He's talking about it to his peers, colleagues, family. If you're serious about growing your business and protecting revenue and increasing customer loyalty, this is where you need to be at. If you're not agile and you're not leveraging those things, you are going to the point of remaining competitive or being competitive. It's a non-negotiable. You have to be doing this stuff now. That marketing dollars that you put into attracting customers to come to your site or visit your storefront, or if you're in healthcare, come and see you versus another hospital system.
Yeah.
If you're not using cloud and being agile and providing those, the very best customer experience when it comes to digital and technology platforms and products, you will lose customers.
It's true. It's absolutely true. And I think that's just an important thing to keep in mind here, is that there are going to be less and less things that you can push off from moving to cloud that will continue to pull you back from remaining competitive. And in this environment, in this ecosystem, from an economic perspective, it is vital that you start thinking about that. And that's why we talked about cloud being a competitive advantage for this conversation. I've got another question here. It's got the highest number of upvotes currently. It says, it's hard to run a business. Sometimes you don't have time to think about cloud or tech. I just need a solution to my problem that works. So how does that fit in? Saif, I want to throw this question to you. If I just need a solution to a problem that works, how does that fit into this whole thing?
Okay. So I think this is where choosing the right cloud partner is important, right? Okay. So where you want to make sure that it is not taking you away from what you're trying to get what's steering your business here. It's not taking you away from that, but rather you have explained what you want as a solution and what you want to get, what business value you want out of it. And it's up to the partner to now figure that out and work through it. And they will find the people that they need to talk to have that information, to make the right decision and bring the solution back to you, right? And that is something that we at Software pride in, is that we want to try and reduce the burden as much as we can on you as a business owner or a decision maker, to be able to give us everything we need, instead just point in the direction that we would probably need to go in, or we'll even go figure that out and then be able to find, okay, what is it that you really need to do, and bring you that information, and then from there on take ownership of getting it done to bring you that business value, right? So the way we look at it is that we're not looking at, okay, let's implement cloud, platform A, B, or C. We're looking at, okay, what is it that the engineering and user problem that we're trying to solve over here to bring the most business value? When we're looking at it through that lens, it is not on you to be able to give us instructions or babysitters or anything. It's up to us to figure that out to help you.
Frank, I want to add something to that. I think we've spent a lot of time talking about this internally and with our own brand. One of our biggest focuses is about humanizing technology.
Absolutely.
When people come to you with that type of situation, we have to be able to understand what that means, right? They're facing a number of things being thrown at them every day.
Yeah.
They're experiencing a bunch of challenges. We've got to be able to come in and put people at the forefront of those things and understand that technology enables people, and people are what matter, and technology is what lifts them up. We take the time to sit down with those people and say, okay, we understand what's going on. We will put a solution together, and we will work with you in a nuanced way to suit what you need right now and where you want to go. People are very important to us, and we spend a lot of time making sure we've got that right before we worry about whatever technology cloud platform is going to be the right one.
So I want to talk briefly about that again and kind of dig a little bit into it. We are all digital natives now. We are utilizing our smartphones every day, more than our computers, more or less, personally. And we have expectations for the tools that we're using to be easy, to be fun, to be engaging. And I want to talk a little bit about how humanizing technology and that mindset plays a role in developing a cloud application for people that are used to easy to use tools and products.
So you've had a lot of involvement in our plans there.
Yes. So when it comes to humanizing technology, we want to look at it as a way where technology needs to become transparent, which means that we don't want people to have to learn something, which means we don't want them to have to feel like this is a mountain that I need to climb. This is something that I need to get trained on. This is something I need to understand before I can use it, before I can get value out of it. So we want to make sure that the first interaction that people have with it is they are delighted, they enjoy it, they can see what the value is, right? And immediately, that is the first impression that we want them to have. Next is looking at once they have this impression, next is like, okay, while they're using this tool, while they're, tool or application or whatever that is, and they stumble upon certain things, they make mistakes, we don't want the technology to necessarily impact them in a negative way. We don't want them to be, affected by it. We want it to be actually be forgiving in a way where it corrects them or it warns them, or gives them feedback, right? So trying to help them through it rather than putting it on the end user to actually learn how to use it effectively and correctly, right? So that is, a small piece of what I think humanizing technology means to us, to be able to create something that, people really enjoy and try to use without being affected by being frustrated or being, having to learn it in order to be able to use it.
So you're a CEO of a company, and your team comes to you and says, "Hey, we need to make sure that this piece of technology, this legacy app that we're translating to cloud, is easy to use, is simple, and it's clean." And you as a CEO say, "I don't care about any of that. I just want it to work. I just want it to be functional enough for people to do their jobs. I don't have time for this cute little shiny little buttons that are kind of clean, and none of that matters to me." What would your response be to someone who says, reduce the budget by reducing the interaction or the interaction design, the user interface? Because I know that some people are looking at that going, why does that matter? What are some of the negative consequences of someone thinking that that is not as important as just getting it done?
As a partner, we would challenge that and we would say it's short-sighted, because what you're doing today, what we're doing today is, yes, we're saving cost today, but we're increasing our cost for the future. So every time we don't spend the upfront time on making things easier, simpler, to improve productivity, and just releasing it because we need to release it and we want people to learn it and adapt it, then that means they're spending more time trying to figure things out. That means productivity is reducing, and that means you are spending more money, right? There's a lot of hidden costs that a lot of business leaders don't understand and don't see about the technology side of it, right? They might say, I just need a form, build it. It doesn't matter, if it's explained or not. That's all we need, right? But it does make a difference. If it's not descriptive enough, it's not providing guidance, you're not going to get the right information. If you don't get the right information, somebody has to now send it back. Somebody has to validate it. Somebody has to review it. So you're adding all these checks to overcome what you could have fixed in the initial planning stage itself of trying to spend the time and the effort in making it right? And we don't suggest that we do all of that at once.
Right, of course.
We talked about incremental business value. So maybe you start off with something simple, but let's not forget that you need to make it better. You need to improve it, so that way you're reducing the lost opportunities in the future.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And that's also, I think, nuanced to the CEO or the leader or the type of business or the situation they're in too.
Very true. Yes.
As a partner, we do think it's valuable to challenge those things to see where there might be some short-sightedness and give share some of our experiences and learnings. That said, where someone is able to explain, or has the responsibility of weighing those things up, we'll work with them on that. But as Saif said, if you are going to take a short-sighted view, you do have to have a long-term view as well and a long-term view plan.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
And incremental business value, when CEOs or leaders come to you and you start to show them value or start to solve a problem, or if they have a large problem, you start to solve smaller ones first, their confidence in you and trust is built, and then we're able to probably impart more of that stuff openly and say, hey, this is not the right decision. Like, if you trust this, let's explore it, let's talk about it, and let's put a plan together. But there are times that calls that organizations will have to say, I do have to take a short-sighted view based on a market need or a customer request or things like that. So,
but it's heavily weighed and considered against a longer-term view, knowing that, like you said, Saif, like MVP is first. Just get it out, minimum viable product, let's go. And then knowing and recognizing that change needs to happen over time is still an opportunity there to address issues that could come up.
Yep.
So I've got one more question for you guys, and we're at 4 minutes until the end of this webinar. So first of all, thank you so much for joining and for answering these questions and having this conversation. Secondly, for those that are asking questions on Just Ask, thank you. These have been fantastic. So the last question I have is, we had a bad experience with our last cloud partner. What questions should we ask this time before we hire a new one?
Greg, you want to take that one?
Oh, it's a good one. Definitely get that question. So one of the first things I would do is I would want to understand what happened, right? And I think the second question would be I'd want to hear from them, what did they learn? Questions they should be asking the potential one is, they should be sharing what happened, and they probably should own things where maybe they felt like they had a role to play in it as well. And then exploring and vetting a partner with a bunch of questions immediately, right? Have you worked in the space? Can I talk to your customers? Can you demonstrate it?
Yep.
I feel like my trust was broken last time, so what can you do? Sometimes clients won't tell you this, but as a partner, can you help to rebuild that trust? Sometimes we pay for other people's past sins.
Of course.
So how do we will always look at those opportunities and say, well, so I can tell you about it, but I can also maybe look to explore how I prove it to you as well. So I would be asking questions like that to a potential partner, say, is there a way that we could work together where we could build trust in each other in a quick way? Because I am a little bit scorned, or I was hurt in the previous experience.
Thank you. Saif, anything to add before we close?
Yeah. So for me, I would say that I think you should not carry the emotional unforgiveness towards that vendor partner to your future search.
Yeah.
That's going to make it harder for you to get through, because you also, as much as you're buying, somebody's also selling, right? You want to make sure that there is a warm relationship to begin with over there as well.
Right.
So starting with that, I would say, be honest and be real and say, here are the things that we saw in the past that we've experienced that we saw as an issue. How would you be able to overcome that, or how would you avoid that? Having those conversations, I think, will give you insight into how these people think, how they overcome solutions, how they work through challenges, right? I'm not going to say every cloud, there's a good chance that every cloud partner is going to make a mistake somewhere or the other. There is going to be some problem, some challenge. What's important is, like, how do they get out of that? How do they overcome it? How do they solution through it, right? And that is the thinking that you want to understand and you want to be familiar with, and that's what you want to pick them on. If you just pick them on based on their experience and their exposure and their knowledge in the past, that means they're not ready for your future innovation and future problems or solutions that may come, because they don't have experience in that, right? So looking at it through that lens is the thinking, the enablement, the team that's available, what type of organization they are. I think evaluating on those bases could set you up for a better partnership in the long run, because now that partner, if you think that hey, they can solution what I want. They understand my business. They will make sure that they overcome whatever challenges they come. Then that partnership is only going to get stronger and stronger, right? But if you're looking for them to solve every problem and prevent every problem before it happens, then you're going down the wrong path.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's sage advice.
Frank, I think if you're an organization that's had a problem in the past, it's always worthwhile to do some reflection or some introspection of what maybe you did. Because we all make mistakes, as Saif mentioned. It's good to do that activity to look at maybe we weren't ready. Maybe we were short-sighted. Maybe we had to make some pretty rash business decisions. Maybe we put undue pressure on them to take shortcuts. All those things usually come into play. So I think coming from a place of just knowing that, starting there, and then when you do go and speak to different potential partners, be very honest and very clear. Honest with maybe what you felt like you didn't do well, honest with where you think you were let down, and very clear on what your expectations are going forward. And something that we do at Softway, and I think this is something that's not very traditional, ask them to talk about experiences where they did have mistakes or where they did have failures, because everyone has. The most successful businesses in the world have had failures. It's how they overcome them, like Saif mentioned. If you go down that path, you'll generally have a pretty good result in finding the right partner.
Nothing else needs to be said. I think that was a great way to close, Greg. Thank you. And once again, thank you so much, both of you, for taking this time to talk about this. For those that are watching, that are interested in moving forward with cloud, I'd love for you to take a look at our website. We've got some pretty remarkable projects that we've been able to work on with some amazing clients. And in the future, we'll even have some of those clients with us on these webinars to have discussions around this and how it was done. And we'll definitely reach out and let you know when we have those opportunities to have those discussions. But as we conclude, I just want to say again, Saif, Greg, thank you so much for your time. Really enjoyed it. Very, very interesting information. And everybody, cloud is a competitive advantage. Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
All right.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining.